Hey, y'all. Happy Sunday. As is usual, when you schedule yourself to go live, real life happens, and Shane got called out of the room. Here he is. He's back.
Sorry, guys.
That's quite all right. We just went live this very second.
Okay, 1 second. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer.
He got a Shane.
Gotta
He got
heat
a project.
epoxy in 10 minutes, and then I'll.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
change my shirt too. I don't want anyone to see my titties. Okay.
This is what I love about this, man. There is no way you can script any of this stuff. But hey, welcome to the live Q&A session here. I've got a couple of shout outs real quick here. Let me get pick this up. Let me see, where are they? Oh, come on. First of all, David Eichler, thank you very much for the super chat. I mean, I really appreciate it. You guys absolutely rule. Bill Stoffer, thank you for the super chat. I mean, I appreciate you guys more than you will ever know. Today was kind of a jump through it and kind of an impromptu thing. I don't know if anybody noticed. If you're not subscribed to Shane, you should be, for this reason. He released a video yesterday on overlapping vectors for multicolored epoxy inlays. Very well done, I might add. It looked like it was a collaboration between you and Rob, right?
Well, listen, I've got all the information, and if someone was standing with me, I can show them, what to do. And I'm going to try to do that a lot on YouTube from now on. I got so many tips and tricks. But without Rob Sandstrom, that video would have been out in 4 months.
Yeah.
I just had no time to get to it. There's regular job and then my side job, 2 side jobs, and then this hobby. That's all I can take.
and that's something to highlight there. This is actually a hobby for you. This isn't your main line of business, is it?
Right.
Wow.
Nope.
Wow.
For people who don't know, I also referee hockey I'm a USA hockey official, so they'll send me, around the world or around the U.S. and all over the place and to ref. And I blew out a rotator cuff, was going to be down for 10 months. My grandfather was a woodworker, so I said, I'll just make some basic cutting boards. Never saw epoxy before, never had seen a CNC in real life before. And then named Shane's Hardwood as a joke so my hockey buddies would see it. Well, on Etsy, as some people know, an adult film actress happened to buy a table from me there. She posted something, and then poof,
kaboom! The rest,
the
followers
as they
went
say, nuts, and the order started rolling in. I had to get a logo and try to be legitimate.
Well, that's the same old story, Shane. Porn always makes people want to try to go legitimate. So what can you say?
That's it.
Kevin Williamson, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And yes, hockey does mean ice hockey. So,
yep.
So Shane, you released that video yesterday.
Oh, and inline. I do inline too, but hardly ever, just mostly ice.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, okay. No, that's quite all right. This is all about responding to their questions and what have you. And you taught me a few things that I didn't realize or didn't know in that video yesterday. If you haven't seen Shane's video, oh my gosh, I think I forgot to link it in the description, but I'll do that as soon as we're finished here live. Okay. I will put a link to it. Get over and subscribe to Shane's channel. Now, this was actually your first tutorial video, right?
Yes, very first one. Well, if you count the one that Vectric had me do for the they're going to have me again this year, but
same here.
You did it as well. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
No, that was last year. It was just this past September.
Oh, there you go.
Online
it feels like 30 years ago, but that was actually my first one, but it was done for them. And then this is my first one I put out on my own. And there's just still so much information and stuff I want to share, but hard to get time.
Something, just a little tip here, something I have learned over time, little bites. You can, there is no way you can get everything out in one go. And
Right.
believe me, I'm the king of long, boring videos. So you cannot compete with me. I'm telling you. Small bites, man. And that's what I try to do in mine is I try to kind of focus on one concept or one particular type of project, and then try to show it in a real world situation where you would actually use it. And that's what I liked about what you did yesterday, was that you not only showed how you overlap vectors and why you overlap vectors, but you actually brought up that project that you have already cut for somebody.
Yeah.
And put all that into a real world situation.
Right.
Because it's easy to say put tab A in slot B, but where does that all fit into the big picture? And how do you use that in the real world?
Right.
So thank you for doing it that way.
Oh,
I mean,
you're
that
very
helped
welcome.
me
There's a lot more to come. I'm gonna see. Like I tell people on that video too. You know, I'm in this like the Instagram thing is the only thing that really took off for me. So I'm in this like everything's got to fit into a minute, you know, and then that's it. So I love YouTube, the idea of YouTube anyway, because I've only just been barely doing anything. But I love the idea that I can like slow down and kind of walk people through. And if I stumble across stuff, it's not a big deal. They can skip it or whatever. Or if I make a mistake, I can say, oh, I screwed that up. Hold on, do it this way instead. I really like that because it's almost like you're just kind of teaching a class, you know, like, just with people right there with you.
And that's exactly the kind of the approach that I take with it is I start the software, get it recording, and then I just start talking as if there's somebody sitting right next to me and I'm trying to show them what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And that helps me. And that actually came about from showing my daughter this software when she wanted to try to get into it. She then had to move on to other things, so she never got started. But it was just kind of teaching her and trying to anticipate her questions. Of course, with her being right there, she could ask me. But that, you know, that has kind of translated over into doing the videos for other folks. Now, one of the things that I learned from your video yesterday is that you tend to overlap vectors by 50 thousandths of an inch, 0.050. Is that your standard overlap?
Oh no, I hardly ever have that kind of room. I just need 0.05 to work inside. So I just need like a 0.02 to overlap, and it's going to work out perfect for me. But if I can bring a vector in, like on that Buddha board was so nice because those thick black lines were just, I mean, those things were probably 3/8, almost a half-inch thick. So there was that board was just way too easy, but it was a perfect board to kind of show people, you know, overlapping and the idea of it, and then everything just has to shrink with it. It all has to just kind of go like an EPS file. You know, you can grow it to be this big and shrink it to be this small, but it's all relative. So what you see on the Buddha board, I can still do that. You know, if you look at the end of that video, you'll see the precise work that I do. And, you know, I've got nowhere near 0.05. 0.05 is it's like having a football field for me to land on. You know, that's a lot of room. So I love that. But I usually typically, if I can get like a 0.25 overlap, then I'm really happy with that. When I have to get below a 0.2, I start to worry. Sometimes there's other little tips I have, but I usually worry if I get below like a 0.02 that I have like total width, which would be only 0.01 overlap.
Yeah.
You can come almost to the other side.
And for those who are using metric, 0.05 inches, it would be like 1.25 millimeters.
Yep.
And 0.025 inches is like 0.6 of a millimeter. So we're talking about very, very small, close tolerance. So you don't have anything standard that you use. It just kind of vector decides.
Every logo, once I get that logo and my artist sends it to me, or if I've been known to steal a few from the internet, if it's Disney or something like that, or a professional sports team. But once I get that into the software and I figure out where my colors are going, and then I agree on a size and a price with the customer and the placement of the logo, then I know, okay, this is the size of the logo, and now here's what I'm working with, and here's what I can do.
So all of that is dependent upon A, the artwork, B, the size and scale of it, and then however many colors it is and whatever kind of breakdown you have from there. Okay.
Yes. And a lot of times customers will think like, oh, it can be small. I don't want to spend all that stuff. Listen, you want that thing big and center, you're going to use it like a charcuterie board. I'll charge you the same price. Like, that's way better for me. I'll have way more detail. It's going to be great. Thankfully, I'm blessed enough to where I've got epoxy companies just lined up throwing the stuff at me almost free. So that's not an issue doing a bigger logo for someone. I would rather have the room. But a lot of times they want it like off center so they can cut on the board and not scratch the epoxy. Mark, 1 second. Alexa, cancel timer. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. This is going to be kind of a work in progress because he's a very busy guy and he has projects going right now as we speak. And this is kind of like the first time he joined us. He has to jump up and go out and torch the epoxy to pop bubbles and what have you. And you're late, John. You're late. He has to go out and pop bubbles, and then he'll come right back. So that's quite all right. And let's see here. If there's any questions that I can answer, Robert Hodge, a link to Shane's YouTube channel. I will put one in the link of this video as soon as we're done. I had fully intended to link that video in the description here, and I think it totally slipped my mind. I'm not sure. I'm watching this through StreamYard. I'm not watching this through YouTube. If any of you look over in the description of this video and tell me if you see Shane's video linked there. I thought I put it there. So, Bob, I feel for you, my friend. Bob says his timer just went off also. Yeah, that's one of the hazards of live video is you never know what the other person is going to do on the screen, and it just might set off, or get your Echo Dot to do something. But if anybody can look over in the description of this video, if you can see the link to his video down there, let me know, please. I appreciate it. It's not there, just his social links. Okay. So the link to his YouTube channel is there. I will link yesterday's video in the description just as soon as we're done here. So, if you have any questions for me or for Shane, by all means, go ahead and put them over here in the chat. And as quick as he gets back, we will get to them. Let's see here. Dave Matthews, is Shane from Pennsylvania? I see the Rolling Rock sign, Latrobe's Finest. He's currently in Southern California. But I don't know if he is originally from PA. We'll find out when he gets back. I think he's from back east, though. And that's where he got into hockey. But we will find out. Let me see here. There he is.
Sorry, guys. It was
that's quite.
I also had to stir the epoxy, and it's a set time that I have, and there's no shortcuts on that. Or it doesn't look how I get it to look.
Okay. Dave Matthews wants to know: are you from Pennsylvania?
No. The bat sign, eh? No.
The Rolling Rock.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, but my mom was in Canada. Went into labor, shot through the Windsor Tunnel, had me in the U.S. 2 days later, I'm back in Toronto and Nova Scotia, places like that, and spent some time in Canada, and then now I'm back here I'm out here in Fullerton, California, where I have my home now. Okay. But that's all my origins. The Rolling Rock sign. A lot of people send me things from different areas, like referee buddies. So yeah, we'll just kind of trade stuff out.
Okay. Cool. By the way, when you set your 10-minute timer, when you screamed at Alexa, you set a couple of timer for a couple of other people.
Everyone. Everyone, I'll turn off my thing because I forgot. You just remind me. I got to set another one. I'll mute my mic so I don't screw everybody up.
Okay. That's hilarious.
There we go.
Okay. Let's see here. Brooks Martin wants to know, do you have a preference in the order of your colors, like black last, lighter hues first, something like that?
No, since everything's going in layers, and I make sure things are totally cured before I go back in and try to cut. It's not really going to matter what I pour first, but generally, black seems to come at the end because it's normally the trace color, and that's where I usually want to move all my colors into that, and then come back and cut that last. Because remember in the video how I talked about the V bit being thicker at the top. Mm-hmm. If I was now, you could do it the reverse way. In fact, you'll see on the end of that video when I'm cutting that thing for Space Force or Space Systems Command, whatever that organization is. That thing, when I first did it, the letters, it was such a small area. You can see I'm doing all that next to a dime. So It was such a small area that even though I was barely doing anything, the letters looked fat and ugly to me. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to bring my game level up and do this the reverse way. So that was, you can tell I've already had flattened the project and everything. And then I went and recut that pocket, poured it the color of the letters, and then I came back in around it and cut around the letters. So that way the letters were thinner at the top. And thicker at the bottom, so that way I could get that precision that I needed for that. So generally black is last, or whatever color is the trace is normally close to last. Okay,
so basically think of this as layers, like you're assembling images or graphics or something. So you'll have layers on top of layers. Like for instance, you have your big white background, and then you did the flesh color for the Buddha and the red for his pants, then you came back and cut that outline in black, and that was your trace color.
Which not only came back, but cut into those colors, right. because I went past that inside black vector.
Right. So you cut actually where those colors met, and then put that black in there, that black outline in there. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. And that is valuable. That really, to me anyway, it simplifies the assembly process. Let's see here. John wants to know, do you do color fades in the inlay? And if so, how?
Like, what do you mean by color fades?
Like say going from a dark red to a lighter red over like a gradient kind of thing.
Sure. I don't know how many people on here have Instagram or not, but that's where all my work is there. So I did recently do one with some different colors that you pour and blend, but there's no way to make epoxy do exactly what you want to do. So as long as the customer would be okay with, hey, it's, your logo is kind of like heavy red here, and it kind of blends real to a lighter, almost pinkish color here. And they say, yeah, that's what it does. And I said, well, it may be heavy red more than halfway across, and it may be, all the way, almost all the way, or it could be hardly any. You can't tell epoxy which way to flow and how to do it. It's just impossible. And you've got to stir that stuff constantly to get that swirl. So it's better to, and the other thing is, a lot of times I just tell people your logo is great, but I'm going to just make it better. It's going to be better. It's going to look better because, I'll take that gradation or whatever you want to call it in those colors, and I'm going to just put all those in the mix. So if it's a blue, that is kind of goes to a darker hue, and then in some areas it's a little bit lighter. I'll throw my blue in there, the azure from Epoxy, and then I'll put some of the pearl, and then a teeny bit of black, maybe a tiny smidge of silver, something like that. And I mix it all up, and now I've got all those colors. So when I swirl it, all those colors are there, but they're just kind of all over the place. Yeah, so they just kind of blend at that line there where they're going to meet, and there's nothing really you can do. You can't do a step fade gradient like that. No, it's not like printing's easy. That's what people tell me, why don't you just print a decal and cover it with epoxy? I was like, sure, if people want to save a bunch of money, it'd be a great idea, but everybody's, for some reason, loves the torture that this puts me through. So well, come on. I mean, it's just cool. It's just cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people's expectations of what a person can and can't do,
I'm not going to get into it. I could tell you stories.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kevin Wilkinson wants to know, small text, let's say 1/4 inch tall, what bit would you use? He tried an 18 degree 0.030 deep and it came out okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 18 degrees, real nice. I think he's probably talking about that. Are you talking about that one with the? I'm sorry, I should know all these tool numbers, but I don't know any of them. But tools today, or I guess it's an Amana bit, they have an 18 degree bit that has kind of a flat bottom on it. I wonder if that's the one he's talking about or not. But I would typically go with a 15 degree bit.
Mhm.
And if anybody wants a code, I can tell you. I can give you a discount. Hold on one second. Sorry, this is very unprofessional.
Whip out your pencil and write this down.
Okay. Oh, it was in my WhatsApp. Okay. So
Get ready. Prepare to copy over.
I'm so sorry, guys. This is my life right here. Everybody who knows me hates me because of it. Okay. I'm looking for it. Okay. Oh, it was after that. Okay, guys, listen, I'm going to get it for you, and I'm going to tell you in just a few minutes. So that way I just kind of don't hold everybody up.
Okay.
But I would go with a 15 degree bit. And that's so far, from what I can tell, about the most precise and like sturdy bit that I can find. I would love it if they, gave me something like, those surgeons who do like laser surgery use. That'd be great. But up until now, I still haven't found anyone to send me any of that stuff. So,
well, I'm sure there are upper limits that they have to abide by.
I found it.
Okay.
I guess that it's special code they made for me. So try not to laugh, but Madman 10 is the coupon code, and it's through RIP Precision Tools. RIP Precision Tools.
Okay. And that was Madman 10?
Madman 10, yes.
All right, sweet. So you heard it here first.
The 15 degree stubby there is only like $19 or something. So, and it works just as well as that long one, because a lot of people who are doing this, they don't need the a 2 or 3 inch bit. So they're only cutting into the board,
right,
1/8 of an inch or so, maybe 1/4 inch at the most. So that little stubby works perfect for $19.
Now, just a personal question that I don't know if we've addressed or not. Do you use dust collection when you're carving these?
Yeah, usually for the V bits, if I'm trying to film something, then of course I don't. But
Right.
I always regret it after. I'm like, why do I film this crap? Like I've got to do the whole garage. But Laguna was nice enough to send me that Flux something, C-Flux 3 or something like that. That thing is strong. I mean, like, look out! It's sucking up tools and screwdrivers. What the hell's going on? But so I do like to run that, and I almost always run out my clearing passes, unless I'm doing like a really big project that I want a lot of people I know is going to get a lot of exposure. Then I'll just let it kind of go all over, and I'll stand there with an air gun and kind of blow the stuff off of the way so the camera can get it.
Now, having never machined or cut or engraved epoxy, does static build up in it? Does it stick to everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Static builds up in it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So another vote for grounding your system.
Yeah, and I got to figure out how to do that. I know I need to ground my system. I just don't know what that means. Electricity and I are like electricity and water. We do not mix. I know nothing. So I do need to figure out how to do that, because I've literally zapped myself touching my machine and it shuts down.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's a Laguna IQ Swift, so it remembers where it was, and I don't lose anything. But it would be tragic, I think, if I was using one of those other CNCs I was going to get 4 years ago when I first started.
Yeah. Okay, Dwayne Ruthig wants to know, can you, instead of overlapping vectors, use the pocket allowance to oversize or overlap the vectors?
You really can. I think I know what you're talking about, but remember, I only use about 6 or 7 of those buttons through the whole thing. There's a lot I don't know. I've just somehow figured out how to do this with very limited, just one thing at a time, and figuring out what these buttons do. But yeah, that I think would make sense. I just have never done it that way. one thing I want you guys to know, a lot of you probably know this software so much better than me. I am not here trying to say like I am some kind of, listen to me about the software. I know nothing. Like I only know what, I see right in front of me, and I try to transfer that to you guys. If you guys have some really cool tips and tricks, like in my note editing on that video, you saw what I was doing there, right, Mark? Where I was kind of pulling them in one by one, and then I selected a bunch of them and pulled them all together. And then Rob says something to me like, "Hey, did you know you can use this one button here and it will smooth all of them?" I was like, "No, I didn't know that. If I had known that, I've been doing that for the last 17 months,
Just letting you know, the first video I made after our first live stream, I made it for you.
Yeah, maybe it was you.
To show you that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so yeah.
And also I got to say, Dwayne, is that the pocket allowance that you're talking about is not available in the V-carve toolpath. That's in the pocket toolpath. You use a V-carve toolpath, V-carve engrave toolpath for all of this, don't you, Shane?
Yes.
Yes. So
yes, but I know if you have a very small ML, let's say 16th of an inch or 32nd of an inch or something like that, you don't really technically have to use V-carve if you're okay with that, and you're okay with waiting 37, 38 hours for your project to cut.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to do the V-carve thing, and then you could just get stuff like right up to each other, and it would work out really nice. But with me, I have, anywhere from like 5 to a dozen projects every day that have to get on the machine, then pulled off and poured. So I've just got no time more than, I already run my machine very slow. So if I was to try to use a 32nd of an inch bit or a 16th of an inch bit, I'd be doomed. It would just take way too long.
Yeah. So just know that pocket allowance is not available in the V-carve engraved toolpath. So that's in the pocket. And if it's a large logo, something like mine, where you've got a red circle, black sunglasses, and a black mustache, and you're making something big, you may not need to do that. You might be able to do it all with a 1/4 inch and a 1/8 inch end mill.
Definitely. I would love to do your logo, but you already know how to do this stuff. So,
well, what can I say? I'm going to probably end up doing it, but we'll see. So, okay, hopefully that answered that question here. Let's see. No, I did not get your video linked in the description. I got all your socials there. When I'll add them as soon as we're done here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Brooks Martin wants to know, how do you deal with microvoids? Do you use like Clear Epoxy or CA glue or something like that?
Clear Epoxy always.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times I shouldn't say that. When I hear CA glue, I think of Star Bond adhesives, and they're really, really good to me too. I, in fact, just put out a stupid video where a few weeks ago I blinded myself, and then yesterday I had these bloody eye patches, and I drank some of the glue because I was trying to do it without sight. I think of those type of glues, and you'll never get that clarity that you'll get from an epoxy with any of the glues, not even the super clear glues and stuff like that. You're gonna see a hue on there that you're just not gonna want. It's gonna stand out. It's gonna, especially when you buff these things out with these those 3M polishes. Those really stand out then. So you definitely want to use just a little bit of Clear Epoxy to do that. Also, guys, for me, I use a lot of West systems, and I love it because it's a pump of this and a pump of this, and it's a 5-to-1 mix. But if you get yourself one of those little scales on Amazon, and then you got your little Dixie cups, you can always just, go by weight and, put a very small amount here and a very small amount here. That will help you save a lot of waste of epoxy if you guys aren't already doing that. If you guys are using West systems, you're kind of forced into that full pump of each. And sometimes you're doing stuff where you just don't even need that much,
But, full disclosure here, that brings about an interesting thing. Now, this may not be interesting to you, Shane, but then again, maybe it is. A friend of mine by the name of Ken Moon, who runs a YouTube channel called Moon Pie Creations. 3 years ago, he started taking all of his epoxy overpours and pouring them into a dollar store, like a Tupperware bowl. He bought from the dollar store.
Oh, yeah.
And when he got that sucker filled up of all the overpour, all the excess epoxy, It took him 3 years. He got it filled up, and he just turned a bowl from that.
That is really cool. I do the same stuff. A lot of my videos, I don't think you guys will be able to see this that well, but let's see. Yeah, I'll just see if you guys can see it. Hold on. Watch at the very end. Just look above the Baltimore Raven. This is just a few minutes ago. That is mute.
Okay.
Alexa, timer. So that's a form from Crafted Elements for like a 4-slot wine caddy or something like that. And I always have stuff from them on the table so I can put all my extra stuff in there. And then also a lot of times I just have like these 32-ounce measured plastic containers, and I use those too, and I keep filling those up. And I've just got those stored in the closet because all those layers look so cool. And I've used a lathe in high school, but I don't own a lathe right now. But I know when I do, turning like bowls and cups and stuff out of that epoxy is going to be really cool.
One of the things that I plan on doing when I finally get all set up and get back to making projects here is I'm going to make some 3D chargers or big plates and platters and what have you.
Yep.
That could be adapted. If you just pour a big blank, 3/4 inch thick of your epoxy and put it down, then machine the back, flip it over, machine the top, and off you go. That would look very cool too.
Yep. Mark, I have to heat one. I'll be right back.
Okay. Let's see here. Todd HC&C says, me too on the zapping. I do plan on doing a video on grounding my dust collector. Very simple, short video. There's a lot of conflicting information out there about grounding PVC pipe or, vinyl hose or something like that. You're not necessarily attempting to ground the pipe itself. What you're trying to do is dissipate the static as it is built. I'm not worried about explosion. I do not think personally I don't know that it's possible to create an explosion because you have to have absolutely the perfect mixture of fuel and air to get ignition. What I'm concerned about is, like you're talking about, Todd, and like Shane's talking about, static arcing over and frying some of the electronics on the machine. Now, Shane has already talked about his experience with zapping himself and the program, everything shut down. That's best case scenario, is everything shuts down and it can be brought back up. But worst case is you could fry some of the electronics, and I'm sorry, but that's just too expensive for me to monkey with. Basically, what I do is I run a bare copper wire, a grounding wire you can get at your local electrical supply shop, and I believe I want to say it's 20 gauge. It might be slightly bigger. It might be 18 gauge. But I hook it to one end of my the dust collector right where it goes into the shoe. And I just poked a hole, used a small, tiny machine screw, and then run that wire inside the pipe all the way down and then ground that to the unit itself, to the dust collection unit itself. All you're trying to do is dissipate that static as it builds. And then it won't ever build up to the level to where it is going to zap you. Now, I mean, I've been doing it that way for 6 years. So, and it's worked. I've not had an issue. I don't zap myself when I touch stuff. And whereas I used to, you could walk past it and feel the hair on your arm standing up, and that doesn't do that now. So let's see here. Let's see. George Gerhard, my CNC router has a boring unit. Wow. With 11 vertical drills. Does Aspire support the use of this? That would be a question to send to Vectric support. If you go to Vectric's website, there's a link down at the bottom of the description of this video. If you go to their website and click on contact us, send an email to them, they will probably need to know some more specifics, the make, the model number of your unit, and they can tell you whether or not they have the correct post processor and whether or not they support that type of your type of machine, but I have no way of knowing right off the top of my head. So, JMJ wants to know, Jeff wants to know, can you post a link to the rip bit that Shane uses? I will do that. I'll get that information from Shane when we're finished, and we will, I'll do just that. So put a link to it down in the description. Let's see. We did have another here. There we go. Daniel Thompson wants to know, what kind of tool speed do you use when surfacing the epoxy to keep it from melting, or should I not surface it with the CNC?
Yeah, I always use my CNC to surface, and I always use the Amana RC 2255 flattening bit.
Okay.
It's I guess it's a little bit expensive. I think it's a couple $100, but it's worth every penny. I mean, that thing, I've tried all
pretty
of them.
big.
Yeah, I've tried all of them. It's a 2-inch. Bye, honey. Drive careful. Love you too, my daughter. So I've used all the bits. Like, I've tried all the flattening bits, and that RC 2255 is definitely the ticket. And
Okay.
The speed, let me see. About when I'm clearing the epoxy, I try to keep it between like 3,000 and 3,500 millimeters. Is that they go by per minute?
Per minute or per second? It's either or. Yeah.
No, it must be per minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So I keep it down. The typical speed for my machine is somewhere like between 6,000 and 8,000 millimeters a minute. Is if I'm running it around just manually to get it to go somewhere. Yeah. But when I'm actually clearing, I manually do all my clearing. I never just, create a grid and tell it to go do that, because I want to be there to know if I'm going to go 1/10 of a millimeter down or a little bit more, or a little bit less. Plus, sometimes depending on the type of epoxy I use, it will tear. So I've got to be there to kind of know, okay, on my next pass, I can only do this. So I surface them all manually just by the X and Y on the, and then of course the Z on the machine with the handheld controller.
Okay, and for those of you who are into the Imperial system, same as me, that works out to be about 120 inches per minute, thereabouts. And we have Rob Sandstrom joining us from the vehicle.
Yeah.
From the mobile command post. How's it going, Rob?
Good. How are you guys?
I think we're going to make it.
All hands free. Is Shane entertained y'all?
Yeah, off and on in between bouts of going out to stir epoxy. So that's something that we didn't really get into. Was I know about every 15 minutes for the first hour and a half to 2 hours, you go out and pop bubbles. How often do you have to stir it? Is it the same schedule, or is that
I stir every 15 minutes, and then I can just tell when I'm getting close to, okay, I might not be able to stir this much longer. Then I set a 5-minute timer, come back and kind of give it a test. And then if I notice like, oh no, this is not going to work, I just don't stir anymore. And all I do is heat it the rest of the way out for another, probably another hour or two. It's usually, between, an hour and a half and 3.5, 4 hours at the most of just me going in there and just hitting it with a torch. And that doesn't mean you have to do that stuff for 4 hours, but a lot of these pours I'm doing, they're huge. So, and I'm using sometimes the deep pour epoxies. Those take a lot longer to set. So really it depends on the epoxy I'm using. And then, for how long I'll need to do it. Like if you're using West Systems 105, 205, hour and a half, you're done popping bubbles. That's it. You better have what you need by then, or you're going to have to recut it and pour it.
Okay. So it basically, you'll develop a feel for it as you get more and more experienced.
Definitely.
But if you're pre-coating, like we discussed last time, and you're eliminating a good source of the air bubbles by pre-coating that with the clear, you're sealing that off.
Yes.
So you're not getting air bubbles out of the wood.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Brooks Martin wants to know, do you guys use syringes?
I think the other point. Can you hear me, Mark?
Rob? Yes.
I think the other point on the topic of Shane talking about stirring it and the feel, that's important to note, because what happens if you try to stir it after it's too thick, you end up with some ripples in your epoxy and some problems. So you got to be careful and test it, just like Shane was talking about. It's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
You got to get a feel for it.
Okay. Okay. Now, Brooks Martin wants to know, do you guys use syringes?
No, I use a toothpick to get the fine stuff, and then just basically pour from a Dixie cup or cups up to a 5-gallon bucket. It just depends if I'm doing a big river table, that's taking 20 or 30 gallons of epoxy. I'm going 5 gallons at a time, or down to just working out of like little Dixie cups I get on Amazon. But I have used syringes and they're cool, but there's just way too many projects on my table every day. So to have a little syringe with the stuff, it's almost like I'm never working on anything that small. So I just kind of like will just get the Dixie cup, dip a toothpick in it, and then just kind of like let it go drop by drop where it needs to go. And the big secret here, not secret, but the one thing you'll find out if you don't know this already is if you cover up a hole, epoxy is really good at trying to make a bubble, but there's a good chance there's going to be a bubble under that hole that you covered up. So what I'll try to do is take that toothpick and I'll dip it in the epoxy, and then I'll put it down into the what I'm about to pour into if it's a real small area. And I kind of swirl the toothpick to like let the epoxy touch the sides a little bit. Then I make sure that I scoop with the toothpick to get epoxy out so it doesn't try to cover. And then I take another couple drops and I put it right on the corner, and then the epoxy will want to run in with itself because there's epoxy on the sides, and epoxy loves epoxy. So it will just kind of follow itself down into the hole, and you'll watch it rise up. Now, for me, this is very nerdy, but I love, one of my best feelings I get when I'm pouring epoxy in some of those really small holes is when I can see that thing rising to the top and I know I don't have a bubble underneath. That is a very, very relieving feeling because there's nothing worse than flattening off a project and realizing you have bubbles on there that you're going to try to color match. It's not going to happen. I just recut the whole. I'll recut it and start over, but a lot of people try to color match, and that's just up to the person who's doing it, Yeah,
you really have to be meticulous and take meticulous notes to color match. Related, but way off topic. My wife is heavy into knitting and weaving. She does everything but raise the sheep. And I know when she is dyeing fiber, she better dye way too much because you're never going to be able to match that color again.
Mark, it's the ice hockey referee inside me, and we have this built-in thing where we like to bust balls. I hope there's not too many people watching that are real sensitive, but normally I wouldn't say this. I'm not going to say this, but what I would have said if this was in the locker room, I would have said, I know why your wife doesn't have the sheep.
Yes, exactly, because I had to put my foot down somewhere.
Around you, but I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, I know that, but I was never in the Navy. So
I'm not going to do that.
Let's see. Apropos of absolutely nothing whatsoever here, Sargon Tavor, how you doing, Sargon? He says, does the fresh epoxy adhere to the old dried epoxy to be safe for turning? Ken did it, like I said, after over the course of 3 years. I will link his video in the description as soon as I'm finished here live. And it worked just perfect for him. As Shane just said, epoxy loves epoxy, and they will stick.
Well, it will stick.
So,
but I don't turn, so I can't say in that application that would work. But I know for me, there's plenty of times where I've got Crafted Elements. They're such a great company. They've sent me like these big 3-foot by 2-foot molds and an 18-inch by 24-inch mold. So I keep all that stuff in there. And if I mix up 5 gallons of epoxy, I only need 3.5 or something like that. I just throw it in there, and then it might be like 6 months or 7 months before I put more epoxy in there. So, but when I'm done, I've got like this nice block or a tabletop or something like that probably isn't going to be the most beautiful colors in the world because it's just a mix of whatever I've thrown in there. Yeah. But I've never had an issue with flattening that and polishing it up.
Well, that's what Ken's was. I mean, he had glow-in-the-dark stuff in there. He had fluorescent stuff. He had dull, old, ugly, nasty stuff. Just whatever he had in whatever amount, he just poured it into that bowl and then turned it. And it came out looking awesome.
Yep.
So let's see here. We have answered this before, but I knew it was going to come up again. Jeff, JMJ Love Dance, torch versus heat gun versus alcohol, etc. for removing bubbles.
Only a torch for me.
Do you agree, Rob?
Yeah, We talked about it before. Torch for removing bubbles, heat gun for moving epoxy. Like if you want to do an ocean scene or something and blow it around, heat gun for that. But for removing bubbles, just use a torch. That's what I use. But others use the heat gun.
Yep.
But,
and
again, if you're pouring into one of those molds, you might not want to use a torch. In those cases, I would go with the alcohol.
Okay, I've never seen that, so you might have to do a video on that. I don't know what you're talking about with alcohol for popping.
Oh, it's
bubbles.
like that. I don't want to assign this to something like women do, but I've seen that spray used by a lot of the ladies who are like these really big like YouTubers and Instagram people who do these really beautiful epoxy work, but it's all usually just like kind of poured and flowed with different colors, kind of how they mix. And that's a lot of times how they clear their bubbles with this like the special spray they have. I don't have any, but I do know it works from talking with Jess Crow uses it.
Okay. I never heard of that. All right. Let's see. Jeff Woody1 wants to know if pouring epoxy into containers at the end of a job, will it bond properly to the already dried epoxy? Yes.
Oh yeah. Just if it's been a few months that your project's been. What are we doing? If it's been a few months since your project's been sitting in there, and it might be in the garage or something like that, you're going to want to wipe it out or blow it out with a compressed air. But absolutely, that's going to bond just like it was poured all together. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Rob's out of the wind. I can unmute him now. You were going right into the wind, man, and that's all we heard.
Yeah, I just got in the house.
That's perfect. Okay, a lot of people talking about grounding. Okay, let's see. All right, there we go. Ayal Peleg wants to know, what is the purpose of stirring or swirling that epoxy to begin with?
Just the look that you get from stirring the epoxy is why I stir it. Once it's poured, you don't really need to stir it if you don't want that look. You just can let it set and kind of just set up how you pour it.
I think what did it for me on that swirl thing is the Traeger board that you did with the portrait of the CEO and his wife.
Yeah.
And her blonde hair, she has blonde curly hair, and Shane took a toothpick and he swirled that goldish colored blonde epoxy, and it looks like blonde curly hair.
Yeah,
and I was really like, cool. Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I wish I could take my laptop in the other room for you guys to show you the projects I'm working on, but I've got some crazy swirls going on in there right now. It's really cool.
We got some feedback coming from your connection here, Rob. I don't know if it's we're coming through your speakers and feeding back to you or what. There we go.
Okay, I'll see if I can turn it down or mute my mic.
Okay, well, you can do that if you'd like. I'm just trying to kind of.
Oh yeah, I hear the back feet or the from that. That's weird.
Let's see. This carvings guy said, I use torch tip cleaner. You have different sizes to play with. I think that's for the popping.
I like that name, the Peckerhead Carving. That's my kind of. I'm gonna have to find him if you got Instagram or something.
Okay. And oh my God. Yeah. Everybody wants to get into the act. That's my wife. She says the only fiber animal she has is me. And years ago, this is totally apropos of absolutely nothing. Years ago, she used to do a lot of demonstrations and what have you. And she had this board made up with pictures of different animals and samples of their wool. And she put my picture up there. And when I shaved off my beard, she actually took my beard, blended it with a little bit of wool, spun it, and knitted it. So,
hey, can I tell a quick little story? Let people in on your is Linda watching this right now?
Yeah, she's in there knitting right now.
Linda,
watching
I hope Mark told you that I apologize for calling the other day. I did not. I completely forgot it was a home phone. The thing I wanted to say back to the ball busting part, like I love to do. Mark, you're the only person left on earth that I know of that has a home phone. Honest to God, like I know no one else with a home phone. So
I'm
old.
There
was a voice recorder that I think time picked up. I was like, this is amazing.
It was an answering machine. I have a landline with an answering machine. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I sold real estate, and my cell phone was my life, and I had to be available 24/7.
Yep.
I eventually learned to shut it off at around 10 o'clock at night, because if I didn't, people would call. And I swore that after I retired, I would never have another cell phone. I retired 3 years ago, canceled my cell phone service, and I don't miss it a bit.
And trust me, people, he lived up to that, because trying to send him a video or get a hold of him is next to impossible.
I'm easy to contact.
I almost wanted just to buy you a phone just to send to you like an iPhone.
I won't turn it on.
No, but it would just be, nobody would have the number except me. It'd be like a little bat phone. If I wanted to send you something to see, then you could use that,
We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of absolutely nothing worse than being that easy to contact 24/7. I can't. See, but I'm retired. I don't have a job. I don't want a job. I'm on my own terms.
Right.
And with the answering machine, I can scream. So, okay. John wants to know, Rob, do you have a chip load value when cutting into the epoxy?
No, I use the same chip load value I would use with wood. And so whatever the whatever the recommended is, and I put those into my tool database ahead of time with the Vectric software. So I just go select it out of the tool database and it calculates chip load. So I don't even pay attention to it other than the first time I entered in the database.
And I don't know what chip load is, so just in case anyone's wondering.
Chip load is the thick. I'll get into that later on. And you are outnumbered, Shane. Dave Bonani, I think I pronounced that right. Robert Young, Leo Steger, and
okay, Jeff. I apologize, everybody. I apologize. It's great.
You are outnumbered, my friend.
I'll have to get one.
So we're probably so all those that are supporting Mark are probably a lot older than Shane. He's still a young pup.
Not young. I turned 50, 2 grandkids. I feel like I'm ready to go. In fact,
I turned 50.
My wife dug a grave right next to me in the front room here. I can just fall in at any time.
Well, so I'm not the young one. I'm not the old. Well, I might be the old one. I'm 61 next month.
I'm older than you.
Okay. So I'm the middle child. All right. Well, still, us answering machine folks got to stick together. So represent. Okay. Does anybody out there have any more questions at all about this? And believe me, this will not be the final video.
No.
It will not be the final video in this.
I could do this every week. I love talking about this stuff, even if it's just a small topic of, this or that. I'm in. You can count me in. Okay. Yeah. I mean, John Thompson says he's 70. So, hey, all right. I love it.
Okay. IL Pedleg says, I'm the same age as Shane, also with a landline in addition to a cellular. Okay. But yes,
for punishment.
I don't have a cellular at all. So
nope. I sent a pigeon out the other day and it never made it to you, I don't think. You know what, Shane? I've been outdone. Jeff in Connecticut, he still has a fax line. Fax line, yeah. Now we're talking old school. Yep. So, okay, if anybody has any questions at all for anybody, I mean, please, go ahead and throw them in the comments here. There we go. IL Peleg says, but for next week, Shane should have a wearable camera so we can see where he's going. I do have one of those Hero 8s or something like that. I think it's a Go something. And GoPro. Yeah. I just don't know. Like, I guess there's a card there, so I'm going to wear it around, and then I've got to take the card and put it in something, and then at that point I lose interest because I've got too many things to do. So I would love to do that. And they do put them on my helmet sometimes at international events, like especially in France and Italy. They seem to love that shit over there. So I do wear the GoPros a lot on my helmet, but that's about the extent of it. Okay. John says, I just cut my first inlay. Thanks to all of you for inspiring me. I wish I could see it. John, this is why I do this.
That right there is why I do this. I love that stuff. Okay, Brooks Martin says, I ran across a video where someone said you could thin your epoxy up to 50% acetone. Any thoughts?
Maybe, but I'm not messing with it. I've got it dialed in so perfectly that I'm never changing my system.
Okay. And Alan Hefferman says, every time I've used epoxy, I get it everywhere. How do you deal with the mess?
Make sure my wife's not around. I never make a mess.
Yeah.
Well, we all know better than that.
I have these 5-gallon drums with these spouts on the front, and I had a lot of epoxy to fill one time, and it wasn't West Systems, so usually the resin is really thick for most companies, except for West Systems and Epoxy. But so I needed like 64 ounces of each, and I was like, oh, it's coming out like it'll be 20 years. Well, I of course said, okay, I'm gonna come back here in 10 minutes and I'll check on it. No, I got busy with something, sat down, started eating pretzels, went back in about 3 hours later, and the floor was just covered with, it was still flowing.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, gallons. Almost all 5 gallons was just all over the floor.
Oh no.
Yeah.
My gosh. Well, so how do you deal with the mess? I know, Rob, you do your epoxy pours there in your house.
Yeah, I do mine in my office because I only have a little area that I can work out of right now because the way I share my house. So I basically lay down on top of these portable tables. I lay down craft paper, I guess you'll call it. You know, that brown wrapping paper that you can work on. So I lay that down on top of those. That never works completely because those slide around. And then if there's any that gets on something that's important right away, if I can, and hopefully it's not something with paint, so I'm not using anything as paint. What will clean up epoxy is acetone. So if you get it while it's still in the curing process, you can wipe it up with some acetone. And so I did that in one of my videos, I think. I used it to clean a brush, showed people how they could clean their pre-coat brush. And then when I pour, if I'm smart enough to remember, I'll bring up a little acetone with me in my office. I don't keep it here normally, but I'll bring up a little acetone with a couple of cloths so that if I do an oh shucks moment, one where I'm really, oh man, I just poured that all over this table or my desk, I'll clean it up with acetone if I can. That doesn't really work much though if you spill it on the carpet or anything. You're going to end up with bad carpet.
Hey, Mark, I just tried to enter the meeting through my phone. So if you see that, if you let me in, I'll walk in that room and I'll show you another system I use for helping with a lot of the mess.
Okay. You need to join and I will do so.
Okay.
I'll bring you in and we're going to have to go to a different layout here.
But I think the key is epoxy is the thing that will clean, acetone is the thing that will clean up epoxy, but it also takes paint and other things off.
You'll need to mute one or the other or go outside, one of the two. Otherwise, we're going to get feedback. Okay. You're set.
Second.
You're set.
Give me 1 second because I need to, I have a project that's kind of top secret in there that I'm not supposed to show you yet for a company.
Okay.
So
I'll take this out.
I'll show you. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. Things on the fly. Do you ever use like drop cloths or anything like that?
I haven't. I should have, but I didn't. So now I've got a couple spots in my carpet, but I knew that we were going to replace the carpet eventually.
Yeah.
Up here with flooring.
Okay.
And once that happens, I'll have to even be more careful than
okay.
I needed. The other thing that will help with your hands and stuff is baby wipes.
Okay.
I was looking for them. I have a, doesn't work as good as the acetone, but I have a set of baby wipes that I keep so that if I get it,
okay.
Even though I'm using gloves, when you're going to take the gloves off, you spread it around. It's a very messy thing. Okay.
And that will work for just the still uncured epoxy.
Right. And once it's cured, it's a whole different. I haven't ever tried to get it off once it's cured, other than like sand it or scrape it.
Okay. We're ready for you, Shane. What you got?
Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I wish I could get this camera to turn around, but I don't see a button on here that allows me to do that. So I'm just going to try to point this and hope you guys can see what we're looking at. So this here, this UHMW plastic.
Yes.
It's an 8 by. I'm trying to make sure you guys can try to see this. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah.
It's an 8x4 sheet that I put on top of a couple-inch thick table, and some actually another piece of plywood too. So this stuff is great because, like, here's some overpour.
Right.
Here, I can't see what you guys can see, so hopefully I'm getting.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Perfect. You can get down to this stuff and just kind of use a plastic scraper and just kind of scrape it off. It's not coming off with my nail, but believe me, it does. It does come off for sure.
Yeah.
Don't shoot yourself, Shane.
Yeah.
Or an old.
This is my table gun.
Or an old chisel or something like that would knock that off, because I know there ain't many things that stick to that stuff.
So here's the table I was telling you about, where I'll do a lot of pumping and the little scale that I have.
Right.
For that, some powders. Keep most of my pigments over there.
Right.
This is a downdraft table where I stir the powder. So I just switch on the vacuum. It's a 4-inch vacuum, and then kind of keeps. Otherwise, these powders just float all over the room everywhere.
Okay, I see. So yeah, you are really set up there.
Okay.
All right.
So that's a tip that Shane didn't share with me. Even though I've been over his house, I never noticed that plastic. Shane,
Okay.
you're holding out, man.
I just got that.
Oh, okay. You didn't tell me?
No, just like a week ago, my sister had a bunch of stuff I'm doing for her wedding. Picked up a bunch of plastic for her when I was there. I saw those sheets. I was like, "Hey, how much are those?" And they said, "I don't know, like $200 or $300." I said, "Well, I need one." So I just went home, bought a 3/4-inch birch plywood to put on top of the oak table, and then put that on top of it. And man, that is just so nice because all my spills and stuff are just really easy to clean up. I'm gonna see if I can get my floors done in that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that with me before, Shane.
I haven't even thought about it.
I do know that stuff is not cheap. I will putting it out there. That stuff.
Yeah,
is
if you
not
go on
cheap.
Amazon and try to get it shipped to you, it's way more expensive. But here in Southern California, there's a place over in, gosh, I don't know if it's Anaheim or Santa Ana.
Yeah.
But it's much, much cheaper if you go to a place that makes it.
You can go to plastic supply places down there and get some very good deals on stuff. But if you live in a little podunk town with 8,000 people in it, like I do, you got to drive, 4 hours in either direction to get to anywhere. The closest Apple store is a 4.5-hour drive. Anyway, L. Drake says, Shane, your colors are awesome. Do you have a chart that you reference? Basically regarding skin tones.
No. So I guess I could share something with you guys. Hopefully by now enough people have seen my face and they understand, like, okay, this guy's not meaning anything by what he says. So we're going to talk about skin tones. Let me grab something and then I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. And I think people understand really that when we're talking about art and you start talking about skin tones, there is no other context other than getting the colors right.
Shane does it all by eye. That's the bottom line.
And I just got to say, apropos of absolutely nothing, people like that cheese me off because I can't do that. I do not have that eye for color.
I wish I didn't. I told a lot of people, like, man, when they're handing out superpowers, I wish I, could fly or turn invisible or something. Like, I can just take primary colors with some black and white and pretty much eye match, something. But to me, that I just don't see the value in that. It's pretty lame, to be honest with you. Rob loves it. He's always saying, like, "Oh, I love how you do the colors." And I was like, I don't know how I get it. I can just put some colors in a thing and I can kind of see what it's going to take to get to where I want to go.
In my career in the cabinet shops and the millwork shops and the furniture shops, I've known guys who worked back in the finishing department, and they'll look at two different colors that look identical to me. And one of them will say, "Are you kidding? That one's got more orange in it. Can't you see that difference?" And I'm like, no.
So I'm sure you're not going to be able to see any tones. Yeah, there's no way. You can't see any tones on this. But
let's try. Go ahead. Let's try. Go ahead.
Well,
let me bring you up big here.
Okay, hold on. Let me just see if I can get it to where.
Well, no. Yep. Okay, there we go.
You can see him now, Shane.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the project I'm working on right now that's due soon. So when skin tones are a bit tough. If you're doing, I gotta be really careful. I normally just talk how I talk, but if you're doing Caucasian people, then you're going to start with a white and an orange, maybe a drop of red, a drop of brown, something like that. And you're just going to kind of mix it up, and then that's what I do. And then I kind of just add one of those colors to get to what I need to get to the blend I need. Now, if you're working with trying to do black people, which I do so many of these projects, I hate that I have to say it. A lot of my friends are black, but I'm nervous here, okay? Because the way society is nowadays, you got to be careful how you say things. But
as I said before, Shane,
Tamika, this is not in color. That's why that's not why the board's broken in half. But let me tell you, I printed up the artwork at my office one day. I was in a huge hurry. This was about 3 months before Christmas, because this was supposed to be due at Christmas. I'm just finishing it today. But I printed up this picture and didn't realize my printer at the office printed much darker than everything. So as I was kind of going through the project, I'm thinking gosh, I should probably look at the original artwork. And I noticed oh, this is bad. So my plan was to finish the project and then do another one for her with better coloring, because I had completely screwed the pooch. Thankfully, I know her really well. I've known her for a long time. So it worked out where I didn't have to feel weird, because she literally called me up and she was like, hey, that last update, you look like you have me married to Biggie Smalls. My husband's almost your color. And I'm like, what? I haven't met your husband, Tamika. I didn't know. I've got this picture here. And she's like, oh, that picture's way too dark. So I said, I got you. I'll take care of it. Well, so I was going to finish that and then do another. Well, I had moved a different project onto my machine and set my XY on a different home. And when I put the Tamika project back on, the very last cut, I cut something that was supposed to be like lips on a forehead or dots of an eyes on a chin, something. I messed it up. So that's when I got upset and broke the whole project in half and just told her, listen, you're not getting it for Christmas. I'll do it for his 55th birthday. That's February 25th or something. So that's when I'll be delivering that one. And the colors are a lot better now. Rob saw it yesterday, right, Rob?
Yep.
Yeah. She'll be much happier. I'm not going to be canceled when I show up with.
Well, as I said, Shane, I think the people here know that when you're talking about art, there's no other context than trying to have the correct skin tone.
Right. Yeah.
It's nothing other than when you say skin tone, there are so many variations. You just have to kind of use the original artwork and go by eye and try to get as close as you can.
And it is not fun. Matching these skin tones here, because all 4 skin tones are different.
Right.
It was a challenge of just saying okay, who has the lightest skin tone and who has the darkest skin tone?
Yes.
And I'm gonna write down what I did for making the darkest and what I did for making the lightest. And then when I pour the next two, I've got to pull some of this into this and make it here. And then I'm going to pull some of this into this and get here. And that's how I was able to kind of achieve what I did, what you guys will see real soon. I'll put it on YouTube as well. Probably a 1 minute video or 2 minute video of the whole project all put together. Yeah. But I'll also try to, Rob, the stuff I sent you yesterday, I think it'd be really valuable for showing them how I had his lip, her husband's lip came out real orange. It's supposed to have more pink in it. So I flattened this thing down and looked at it and said, that's not right. I can't give this to her with an orange lip. So I actually went back into a project that I've already spent months on and that was finished and had to
recut
1/10 of a millimeter by 1/10 of a millimeter, just run little scratch pads on there to little scratch paths on there to see where it was lined up. Okay, I got to move here. I got to make this a little bit bigger. Back and forth to the computer. Finally got the lip carved out and poured it the correct color yesterday. So I flattened it and I'll be sanding it and I'll be showing you guys that soon.
I have one comment. When Shane was walking through that and he had the camera on it showing me, I'm going to do this, my sphincter muscles were tightened completely because I would have never gone in and done what he was doing. That's the master versus the apprentice thing.
Yeah. Let's see. There was one other. Here we go. Scott Malak had a good idea. Line your table with Tyvek. Now, I have talked to the people at Stone Coat Countertops, mainly because they're 30 miles away from me. And that's what they suggest. They said that the epoxy will not stick to Tyvek or
That would be a
Tyvek
good
tape.
idea.
Except the reason it's not a good idea for me, I tried that. I did that. But the reason it didn't work for me is I'm moving so many things on and off of there, and you rip the tape, and then now you're back to just a lump on there that you try to peel off or put more. So it does work. So that stuff does not stick to epoxy.
Well, like you said, though, you've got 30 and 40 projects going at one time.
Well, 5 to 12, yeah.
I'm never going to have that many going.
Right.
Well, knock on wood. I'm never going to have that many going. I don't want a job, guys. So, all right.
If you're careful, I think that would work perfectly.
Okay, now, Sargon has he's down in San Diego too. Or no, he's in Orange County. I'm sorry. He has a good comment here. Rumor has it that California might put acetone on the forbidden list, just like they did with denatured alcohol, which messes him up royally. Do you have any other plan Bs that you can go to?
California can, you know what? And
California does those kinds of things to us, and that is a challenge. So far, we've been able to figure ways around it. Shane, there was a couple times, like for example, I couldn't get the propane for the propane torch, but
really,
for a while there was a hard time. Whenever I try to order it on Amazon, they would tell me that's not allowed in California. So then later I found out that they did have the same torch Shane has sent me the link to at Home Depot, so I was able to get it there.
Right.
So just depending on where you are and how they're enforcing the rules, it can be a real problem. In the worst case, you hear me say it here, I guess, but in the worst case, I'd run over I'm only 5 hours from Arizona. If I really got into a pinch, I'd run to Arizona and pick it up and bring it back.
I get a lot of stuff from Arizona.
Okay. So you really don't have a plan B should you not be able to get to those. There's no other solvent like xylene.
I've got a cabinet full of California banned solvents. If you,
right.
I'd have to research.
So do I. So
yeah,
I'd have to research it. So I just haven't. I haven't.
Well, let's get into these last two questions, and I'm sorry, guys, but we gotta stop sometime. Russell Faraday wants to know: are you guys adding color before or after the hardener?
I add all my colors after I mix the epoxy. I mix the epoxy first, and then I add the color and mix it again.
Okay.
Yep. Same here.
Okay. The guys up at Stone Coat, they recommend what I do is mix the colorant with the resin, then add the hardener and mix, and then adjust from there if necessary. So, okay. Just didn't know. Different strokes for different folks.
Of course, the reason I do everything is because Shane told me that's what I'm supposed to do. So if he says this is what I do, you can almost guarantee that I've just copied him.
And that's a great recommendation. I'm sure those guys beautiful work. They know exactly what they're talking about. I'm not saying anything against them. I'm just telling you that when you make a color, like my colors need to be, I do so many logos and brands that, they need to be that color. So if I add a color to a resin, I get, okay, I'm there. And then I add hardener to it, that color just changed, and I've got to add more to it anyhow.
Yes.
So,
and I was going to say the same thing. I was just going to say the same thing. If you color the resin and get that all blended up, then you add the epoxy, you've just thinned out the amount of color you have in the total volume. So that would tend to make it translucent.
Well, not only the thinning process, Mark, but lots of times a hardener has a little different hue to it, like an amber or something like that. So fair point. It might not even have the same color as the base resin. And so what we found over time, especially when you get into the shades like Shane's dealing with, that difference in hue means you have to change the color mixture a little bit. Right.
And I can see where that could really mess a person up. Russell Faraday also says he polishes his work table with mold release wax.
Good idea.
Epoxy cleans off easy. Is that expensive, Russell? Just wondering. I don't know anything about mold release wax, so I don't know. Is it a spray on, or is it like the old turtle wax in a can that you rub on and then wipe on, wax off, that kind of thing? I'll wait till Shane gets back and take one last question because we have to end it sometime, and it's 20 after. Holy cow, an hour and 20 minutes. or a quarter after, excuse me. And that is, and I'll ask you and then re-put it to Shane when he gets back. But Jeff also wants to know comments on sanding, polishing, and finish.
Well, I don't go to the extreme Shane does, as we talked about this, I think in the last Q&A or something. I generally go anywhere from, I would say 320 up to 1500 on my projects, depending on what the project is and how I'm using it. Shane many times gets into the 3M polishing and all the other stuff. He gets up to 4,000, 5,000 grit and then switches over to polishers. So he's back now. He can talk about what he does. But his level of polish in mine, when he goes to that level, is noticeable. It's just, for me, the work effort to get there, I'm not doing the significant art that he's doing. And so to me, I don't have the patience or go do that in most cases. And mine still looks pretty darn good at 1,200, 1,500.
That's a lot.
But his looks like glass and mine looks like fiberglass or something.
Sometimes it depends who the project is for and what they paid. So, I will take them to where, it's a glass piece and like that. But generally, you can get away with even, stopping around 600 or 800 and then just kind of like, getting some oil on it or something like that. And it's going to look fine. I always, since this was never my job, it was always my hobby. I always wanted everything I put out to be, just like way up there. So I kind of went through where I was like, oh, I used to polish to only 4,000 or sand to only 4,000. And then I was like, oh, I found these papers. I can get up to 15,000 and then I can switch to these polishes and go through these 3 stages for 3M. So I've tried all that and I'll do all that, but it really just depends on who the project's for and what kind of money's in the project.
Yeah. Hey, I think one other thing that fits with that, Mark, I think we're saying, if you look at Shane's videos in mine, but Shane's the one that puts out all these videos where he goes through his 1 minute rundown. The part that is always impressive is that last part. It has nothing to do with finishing or anything else as much as when he spreads that Odie's oil or the other fluid. Even after you've polished it up, that last step is what really makes things pops.
Oh, yeah. It's what makes it pop. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't like sanding and finishing, this is not the process for you because you will do both. And it also depends on what the project is. If it's a wall hanger,
wall art, man, you can sand that to 280 and just put a clear coat and you're done.
I was just getting ready to say, in fact, Stone Coat says their preferred clear coat is satin polyurethane. So the ones that I have done that were wall hangers, just 320 and then
it fills all the scratches. Satin. It's beautiful.
Yep. And you want a satin finish, so you don't want that high shine. You want that. You want there to be a little bit of bite in that epoxy to hold that
their
finish.
favorite was which one?
Satin polyurethane.
Satin polyurethane, great.
So, and you can get that by the gallon.
Oh yeah,
5 gallons.
At least for now.
Okay. We're going to have to wrap it up here. Again, guys, this will not be the last that you're going to see of Rob and Shane. I can't say yes or no, it'll be an every week thing. I can't say it won't be an every month thing. It's just going to depend on where the wind takes all of us. I still have yet to cut my first one, but you'll see it when I do. And right now, I'm just gearing up for that. Shane, Rob, thank you very much. I have Shane's social media down in the description of this video. I will make sure Rob gets put there as well. The best bet to contact Shane is through Instagram. Is that correct?
Yes, and through Instagram is definitely the way to go. And if you're a YouTube person, you're not too into Instagram or you don't have it, I always tell people, hey, just get Instagram and just only follow me. It'll be like your own personal portal. But the other thing I was going to tell you, a lot of YouTube people are more professional and, all the goofing around is not really what they're looking for. So just ignore the stupid stuff that I do for some of these and just focus on the projects where I'm just showing you an epoxy project. That's going to be the best way to go because otherwise your opinion of me is going to drop.
I don't know about that. Because, we're real people. We have real lives. Rob, I will make sure your social media is also included in the description. And you are most active on Instagram as well?
Yep, I'm on Instagram and I'm on YouTube. Still trying to build that following on YouTube. Some of us still have that exposure that some others that have been doing it for a long time have. And so I'm going to try to get that up and continue to put out instructional videos. That's what my passion is right now, is just trying to answer people's questions and put out instructional videos. I've got a guy that I followed how he did his career, and I think that he's pretty impressive, Mark. So I like what you've done with helping people out, and I want to help people too.
Well, thank you for that, Rob. I do appreciate it. And it's all about we're all in this together. So it's trying to help folks get to the point to where that aha moment happens and they go, yes, and then take off in whichever direction they choose to take off.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly. And because Shane has a full-time job and everything else, and every once in a while needs some adult supervision. I'm trying to help him with his videos as he starts getting started, introducing him to the software and stuff, because he's already got a lot of stuff he needs to know about.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help him out with that kind of stuff in the interim. Eventually he'll do it all on his own, but I can ride in Shane's tailcoats for a little while.
Believe me, at the beginning of this, before you were here, Rob, I polished your ball sack talking.
No. I just let him know we're a team.
Well, I'll tell you what, the social media links are in and will be in the links in the description below. Get over to Shane's channel, subscribe. Get over to Rob's channel, subscribe. Check out his videos. He's got like part 4 or 5 of a series of doing a multicolored sign or inlay. If you haven't been following that, shame on you. Get over there and subscribe.
Hey, the other thing, Mark, on that I thought was really impressive is I've had a couple people, and I think they started following me through these live sessions of yours. And so a guy named Rob Schuster and another guy named Jim Gavin they've both reached out to me on separate topics. I'm still working with Jim on Jim put a gadget together for calculating epoxy using VCarve software, but I haven't experimented and I've had a couple loopholes with it, but I'm not a big gadget user, and I owe Jim a get back to on that one. And the other one that I thought was really cool, and so what I'm encouraging, if you have good ideas, I don't think I know everything, and so therefore those good ideas, if you don't want to reach out and share them via YouTube because you don't feel comfortable or you want me to, I will do that. And Rob Schuster just shared a table with me, and I shared it with Shane too. And Shane said that was really cool.
Yeah, Rob was. I talked to him a little bit after that. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's an Excel table that Rob developed, and it's got all the cut depths for each of the V bits. And I'll be putting out a YouTube on that because he said go ahead and do that in the next week.
Hey, Shane had to split. I knew his time was limited. I was trying to get him out. But thank you, Shane. I do appreciate your time. Sargon, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Sargon goes above and beyond constantly. I mean, I do hope you go to the Vectric user group meeting in San Diego, because I do want to meet up with you, sir. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and wrap up, and just say I will make sure everybody's social is down in the description. I got to link Shane's video. I will link your video playlist, and I will link Ken Moon's video where he took all of his overpours, poured them into one mold, then turned that bowl. And there was one more link. Oh, I was going to try to find the RIP Precision Tools bit from Shane and put the link down in the description. I'll get a hold of him and I'll get that done. So it may take me longer to get all the links put in.
So which bit do you want, Mark? I can send it to you.
I don't remember. I want to say it's. Well, see.
He uses a 15 degree and a 30 degree, and I use them on a regular basis. So I'll send
but he has some sort of code for getting a discount code for folks.
Oh, he did.
So yeah. So that I needed to get that link from him to use his code.
You haven't
So-
shared it with me yet. I'm gonna.
He just got it. I mean, just like minutes before we went live.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to talk to him.
Okay.
All right.
And slam him
Just
good.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, next week I will have a video. I don't know which topic yet. A lot of people were interested in the grounding the dust collector thing. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. I don't know yet. We'll just have to see what happens next week. Thank you for hanging. My gosh, we've been on for an hour and a half. I sincerely appreciate everybody who has hit that super chat and everybody who has hit the donation links down in the description. Appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. You really, really go above and beyond, and I thank you very much. And until next week, let me just say, y'all take care. Get out the shop, do something. Go watch the Daytona 500 if nothing else. But until next week, y'all take care.